Hi there, my name is Erica Meyer.
And my name is Kelton Braun.
And we're interpreters with Meewasin, and today we're going to show you Beaver Creek Conservation Area. Beaver Creek is about 13 kilometers south of the city of Saskatoon, and this area is an active conservation area, which means that Meewasin does a bunch of work out here to make sure that this environment is healthy and vibrant. Meewasin is a nonprofit and a charity, and our mandate is to conserve the river valley. And so we have a three-part mandate that includes conservation, education, and development. And some of the work that we do out here includes our horticulture crew and the resource management crew. So some of the work that we do out here includes removal of invasive species, propagating and planting of native plant species, education to make sure that people know how important grasslands and ecosystems like this are. And we also want to make sure that this area is accessible to our present generations and also future generations. Beaver Creek Conservation Area is located on Treaty 6 territory, which is the traditional lands of the Cree, the homeland of the Métis Nation, and the traditional trade and hunting territories of the Dakota. So out here at Beaver Creek, this interpretive center has been here since 1984. If you were in grade 5 after 1984, it's very likely that you came out here and learned about the beavers and conservation from Meewasin out here. And we also do education in the Saskatoon area as well. So Meewasin looks after 6,700 hectares worth of land in the Saskatoon area, and it's the largest urban conservation zone in Canada, which is pretty special. Today we're going to talk to you about some of the work that has been done out here and how we try and make sure that this habitat is disturbed in the way that it has always been, and making sure that this habitat is really healthy. So we'll talk to you about some of the plants and the trails out here and what you can come and explore. Meewasin's horticulture department has one of the largest native plant greenhouses in Saskatchewan, and so they propagate close to 7,000 species and plant them a year, which is pretty special. So out here at Beaver Creek Conservation Area, this section along the Yellow Trail has been planted in the past half decade, and a bunch of the plants here were planted with the intention of bringing about native pollinators. So Kelton is going to talk to you about some of those plants here.
Thanks. So there's so many awesome flowers here that just bees and other beneficial pollinators love. One of my favorites is this guy here, blazing star, dotted blazing star, also called liatris. And it's a really fun one. You can watch the bees kind of crawl their way up as they go from flower to flower. It's called dotted blazing star because it has, if you look at it on the back side of the leaf, a bunch of little dots on it. Another one is just in front of me here, the purple prairie clover. That one's really fun. It has really bright, intense purple flowers with, you can see the yellow anthers as the flowers kind of mature from the bottom to the top. That's a really good one too. And bees, other pollinators love it. It's really great to incorporate some of these into your gardens at home, just to help bring bees there, which can, increase pollination for your garden and fruit trees, stuff like that. Another few good ones, there's some bergamot over there. We have a native species of bergamot here that it's kind of fun. The leaves, if you crush them up, kind of smell like oregano, which is really weird because it's in the same mint family. What else? We have some goldenrod along the path here.
White evening primrose?
The white evening primrose, yeah, which is a really big white flower and just kind of stands out on the prairies here. Also found along this little pollinator pathway here is there's some hairy golden aster, a nice kind of low-lying yellow flowered plant, and they're done flowering now, but there's some wild roses here, the prairie rose, which is really nice. I think they have just as nice the flowers as most of the horticultural roses. They're just a little lower, beautiful, and again, all those beneficial pollinators really love them.
So something that's really awesome about native plant species is that a lot of their root systems go deep into the ground. So this helps those plants to be drought resistant naturally. Oftentimes the growth points from a lot of the grasses and different plants that grow here are actually just below the surface of the soil. And so if they're grazed or eaten or something like that, the plants are still able to grow afterwards. And these plants with their deep root systems, that allows them to collect water in seasons like this where it is really, really dry, and allows them to still be be really beautiful and to still flower, whereas a lot of more ornamental flowers kind of struggle in environments like that. So another department of Meewasin that does a bunch of work out here at Beaver Creek is the resource management crew. And so they do a lot with invasive species removal. Invasive species are types of plants or insects or organisms that aren't native to this habitat. And when they come into or they're introduced into a new habitat, they can make a lot of changes in the ecosystem. So in the grasslands, the temperate grasslands where we live, this area is unfortunately has a lot of invasive species, and a lot of those are different types of grasses that are used for grazing for different cattle and things like that, and they can really kind of change up a space. So out here, what we do is we want to create disturbance that helps for those native plants to come back. And so we have conservation grazing out here as well as prescribed burns. So where Kelton and I are standing right now, this area was burned last fall. And so they burned this little area, this section. You can see it's a little bit more green than the further prairie in the back. And so what happens when a prescribed burn is done is it burns down a bunch of the litter and the dead grasses that build up on top of the soil. This creates space for new plants to grow and also puts nutrients into the soil, as well as opens up the habitat for different gophers and rodents to make their homes here. And when those animals come in, then it also brings in different raptors and owls as well. So it kind of creates a chain effect in the ecosystem, which is kind of what we're looking for out here. The resource management crew also deals with invasive species by doing biocontrol as well, such as leafy spurge beetles, which actually like to eat some of the plants that are growing, and so they help to kind of get rid of those invasive species for us as well. So in terms of conservation grazing, Meewasin works with a shepherd named Jared Epp, and we've worked with him for about 13 seasons. And he's an incredible guy, and he brings out his sheep out here and grazes them using his dogs that he's trained. And he moves the dog around, and the dog moves the sheep. And so he's able to target different areas. And so the reason why we do grazing and prescribed fires out here is because we're wanting to mimic disturbance that happen more regularly on the prairies before kind of settlers colonized this part of the world and kind of changed up this ecosystem quite a bit. So the prescribed burns, those would happen kind of on more regular, like 5 to 10 year intervals. And the grazing would have been done by large herds of buffalo. So because we don't have wild herds of buffalo anymore, we introduced the sheep to come into this area to eat down the grasses, make sure that invasive species or shrubs don't get too big because they love eating the leaves. And they also go to the bathroom all over the prairies, putting fertilizer back into the soil. And so they help to keep this ecosystem really healthy. So would you like to talk about some of the plants here?
Yeah, for sure. So in this previously burned area last fall, we have a ton of species coming up, and surprisingly a lot of milkweed. It's a species called showy milkweed, has really soft leaves, really soft leaves, and none of them are flowering this year, but maybe next year they'll hopefully flower, and they have big, huge clusters of blooms. And as many of you probably know, milkweed are some of the species that the monarch butterfly comes and eats, lays its eggs on, and the caterpillar eats it and flies back to Mexico. So it's hopefully, I think we saw one monarch caterpillar last year, and we're hoping to see maybe next year a whole bunch more with all of these milkweeds around here. Also, we have some snowberry, a little shrub growing up here. I really like them. They have these nice pale pink flowers and a very kind of bluey green leaves. They're really nice. And also are a bunch of roses coming back up here. Again, some of those native prairie roses, and they also have just nice big beautiful flowers to help attract more pollinators.
Thanks so much for joining us today. We had a great time. Hope you come out and visit Beaver Creek. We're open Wednesday to Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And you can check out more information about the resource management work that we do in the Meewasin Valley by visiting meewasin.com or checking our social media.